Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, Heidi, we've got a show on today that I'm very excited about because we're going to be talking about reclaiming your post-grief life. Heidi, would you like to introduce our guest?
Sure, I'd love to. Emily Thiroux Threatt is joining us today from Maui, Hawaii, one of my favorite places in the world. She is a bereaved widow and had two husbands die. She is the author of the book, Loving and Living Your Way Through Grief, a comprehensive guide to reclaiming and cultivating joy and carrying on in the face of loss. And this book was the winner of the Book Authority Best New Grief Book. So welcome to the show, Emily.
Aloha, I'm happy to be here.
You've had two husbands die. My goodness. Jacques and Ron. And
Yes.
that is quite a lot. I mean, you've got a lot of information to be writing a book on for sure. Tell us about how long ago did Jacques die, your first husband?
Jacques died 15 years ago and Ron died 4 years ago.
Wow. And that's a lot. Jacques was an expert in death and dying and bioethics.
Yes.
But your comment was about him, even though he was in that field, he didn't really deal with his own death, right?
That's right. And I didn't realize that until about an hour before he died, when he asked me if he was going to get better. I think he thought the whole time that he was dealing with what was going on, that he was going to the doctor so that they could make him better. And he was a brilliant man. So it really kind of shocked me when he said that. But it kind of makes sense because he was a very positive person and he helped so many people with dealing with death and dying. He had a course at the college where he taught that was required for all the nurses to go through, that was how to deal with death and dying. And so, and he also ran a bereavement group before even hospice was in the community where he lived at the time. So you'd think that he knew, probably deep in his heart someplace he knew that was what was happening, but he just didn't admit it to himself until the end.
Now, what's your take on that? And what did you learn from that for yourself?
I learned from that to be more mindful. I think that it's very important to really pay attention to what's going on. And knowing that you're dying, I think actually is kind of a gift. I know it was with Ron, because you can really pay attention to your time and use it wisely. Do whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that you want to do, and make the most of it. And you can do that when you are aware of dying, where it doesn't necessarily happen if you don't think about that. Jacques thought about everybody else's dying, but not his. Ironically, he and Jacques died from the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And when I met and married Ron, he wasn't sick, so I had no idea that was what I had in store. Started with congestive heart failure that led to kidney failure, and both of them ended up on dialysis. When he finally realized that this was it, he had been in the hospital for a week. That was on Friday. And on Monday, he told me, it's time for me to go on hospice. So I said, okay. And we made the arrangements. And he spent the rest of the week contacting everybody he loved, anybody he wanted to say goodbye to. Friends and family came over from the mainland, and we had like a party at the house all week, and they just kind of bonded and spent lots of time with Ron and talked to Ron a lot. He was able to talk until the last day and a half.
How was it different for you with your first husband dying and then having your second husband die? What did you learn in between, and how did you get from here to there?
It was about as different as it could be. Both of them I stayed with almost exclusively for their last 2 years. So that was similar. And by the time Jacques died, and Jacques died when he actually died, it was very sudden. And I really didn't know what to do. So I spent a lot of time just being by myself, almost a year of just kind of contemplation before I decided that I had to do something. I couldn't just stay like that forever.
Mhm.
And so that's when my change started to happen then. And I learned a lot in that process.
One of my friends who was widowed said to me, Gloria, accept every invitation, say yes to everything.
Yes, I think that's the best advice. That when you realize that you're ready to be with people, you're ready to be around people. And I got amazing invitations, things that I never would have thought I would have gotten and might not have even paid attention to before. But it changed my life because I was able to get involved in things that were meaningful.
And this is in the first year, once you set the intention.
Once I said I'd accept the invitations started coming.
You've written a book, and it's kind of basically for the first year, some tasks. I'm sure it can go on from that. But tell us a little bit about what you would advise for somebody in that first year.
I would advise the very first thing for you to do is to take good care of yourself. Because often that's the first thing that goes, that people either eat too much or don't eat at all, or can't get out of bed or can't get into bed. There's lots of things. They stop exercising, they stop really being in touch with the world. And it's just really good to take good care of yourself. And if you need to be alone, that's fine, be alone. If you need to be with people, that's fine, be with people. Just make decisions that serve you and where you are at that time, that what you know is going to feel the best for you.
What's in the book for people?
What I did with the book, when I decided to write it, I was writing cards to a friend of mine whose husband had died, and I wanted to support her. And I had decided to do that for a year. So before I started sending the cards, I sat down and wrote out a list of 52 different things that I would write about. And from that I realized I had a book, an outline for a book when I made that list. So that's where it started, where it was birthed from. But with 52 different things, I went through and chose subjects, different subjects, things like forgiveness, self-care. Each chapter is on a different subject. And when, like, for instance, if you read the chapter on gratitude, I give different examples of grief and gratitude. And then at the end of the chapter, I always have a practice, something that you can actively do. I have a website that's the name of my book. So it's lovingandlivingyourwaythroughgrief.com. And you can contact me through there and sign up for my newsletter that I send out with my blog once a week. And then just tell me I'm interested in the writing group, and I put you on the writing group list. And each week I send out the link to Zoom.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show and for all the great stuff that you're doing.
Thanks, Emily. And thank you for helping people love again and live through grief. I love all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thanks everybody for watching and listening to our show today. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.